Whoa, hold on a second. This isn't the right intro. Sorry guys. My bad. Wrong one. Let's change that up, shall we? Danny Phantom, gonna catch 'em all 'cause he's Danny Phantom, gonna catch 'em all 'cause he's Danny Phantom, gonna catch 'em all 'cause he's Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom. What a throwback, huh? Nothing brings me back to the 2000s more than this. Or SpongeBob. Anyway, guys, what's going on? Jack Small of Animation Station, back here again to you all again with yet another video. The hiatus is finally over, and we are in Phantom February. This is the month where I'm going to be taking a look at the entire first season of one of my all-time favorite shows, Danny Phantom. Now, before we start the show, start actual reviews of the show, I want to start by taking a look at some background, like who created it, the year it came out, stuff like that. So, let's get started. Danny Phantom is a American, I believe mostly American, American television series that was created by Butch Hartman, same guy that made Fairly Odd Parents, Fairly Odd Parents, apologies. I'm just so excited I can barely talk. And it premiered on April 3rd of 2004, which, if you may remember, the same year was also the year, wrong button, was also the year that Drake and Josh premiered on Nickelodeon as well. So, yeah, 2004 was like the golden age of television, at least in my opinion, because that was when we had Dino Thunder, Drake and Josh, and Danny Phantom all at once, and it was nuts. It was hard to keep up with. But, anyway, the show has 3 seasons, and it ran from 2004, and it concluded in 2007. It has become a cult classic and a fan favorite Nicktoon. And while SpongeBob is in the big 3 for me, I do think that the best Nicktoon is Danny Phantom, and one of the best Nickelodeon shows, only beaten by Drake and Josh, of course, because I have been a huge fan of that show since I was a kid. But anyway, before we get into the actual review, let's do a quick little rundown. So the synopsis of the show, for those of you that didn't grow up in the 2000s, such as myself, is that a 14-year-old receives ghost powers, and now he has to use them to save the world. That's the most basic synopsis that I can give you. And for the most part, it works out pretty well. I mean, the animation has a great style to it, as you can already tell from this picture from the intro. And yeah, okay, I'm meandering. Let's get to the voice cast, because this is like where the big stuff happens. So, starting with the voice cast, we have David Kaufman voicing Danny Fenton in Danny Phantom. He does a great job being able to balance being a complete dork as well as awesome. Next is Grey Griffith, Sam, voiced by Grey Griffith, or Grey Elise Griffith, as recently she got married. You guys remember her as the voice of Daphne in Scooby-Doo, and I believe she still is to this day, except for Scoob, but that was a whole debacle I don't want to get into. Then we have Ricky Deshawn Collins, apologies if I butcher your name, who voices Tucker, and he does a great job being a bit dorky, but just like Danny, but also really likable at the same time, and usually the comedic relief of the group. Then next we have Colleen O'Shaughnessy, the former voice of Tails in the Sonic series. She voices Jazz, Danny's sister, and she does a great job being able to balance, that teenage responsibility as well as some of that teenage angst that I believe we're all pretty much accustomed to at this point. And she does a great job, and I wish she was still voicing Tails, but you know how it is. Then we have the legendary Ron Paulson voicing the dad, Jack Fenton. One of my favorite characters in the show, and Rob, he's done so much great voice work, and he's a legend. Well, I can't really say more about him. He's just a legendary voice actor. Then there's C. Scott Bullock, who voices Dash, the school bully. Did a very, very, very good job, in my opinion. Cause, see, but unlike Angelica, it didn't like ruin the show for me. It just more like he was one of my favorite characters because he always got his comeuppance in the end, and he always was like the butt end of a joke, and it was funny. Then we have Sauchi, apologies if I mispronounce your name, who's also done a ton of voice work, and as both. You may remember, I remember her mostly as Phil and Lil from Rugrats. She voices the mom, Maddie Fenton. She does a really good job, both being as goofy as her husband Jack, but also a little more sensible, a lot like Rob Paulson. And then the most surprising one to me out of all of these, the one that really surprised me about how like they were somehow able to get him to do this, they got the legendary Hellboy himself, Ron Perlman, to voice the Vice Principal Lancer. And oh my god, he is funny. He is one of the best parts of the show. He does such a great job. And I love that they got Ron Perlman in a kids show. And he does such a great job because usually, he's supposed to be like the big, tough guy, Hellboy. But, it's always nice to see these tough guys do roles that show a bit of their softer side. There are a lot more people that I should mention, but a lot of them are guest stars that voice the monster of the week. And this week it was, what was her name? Apologies, I'm trying to recall. Patricia Heaton voices this episode's main villain, the lunch lady ghost, and she's very likable. She does a really good job because she's able to somehow balance being able to be both sweet and caring as well as the ghost aspects, evil, angry, and a little nuts. And a little temperamental, if I may say so. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about, like, the basic cast here. I'm not going to keep referring to them as at every episode. I'm just doing it for this one, so you guys can be affiliated with them. And if you guys are wondering how I actually was able to watch Danny Phantom in its entirety, well, not in its entirety, I'm still just going through the first season just for this year, but I am working on watching it in its entirety again after nearly 20 years. I mean, jeez, 20 years. It's because there was a complete series DVD set, and I was able to get it. So, there's your answer right there. And I believe it's also available on a couple other different places too. It might be on Paramount Plus, I think, but probably not. I don't know. And, okay, is that everything? Alright, that should be everything. Okay, let's get to the episode, Mystery Me. I have rambled on long enough. Oh, the theme song, I almost forgot. And the theme song, the only time a rap theme song was actually good. Like, actually legitimately good. It told the origin, it was catchy, it had a great instrumentation to it, and it's just one of the most memorable themes in history. If you couldn't already tell by the fact I used CG5's cover, not the first time I've used his covers in my videos, for the intro for this month because it's just that good. That, and I don't want Viacom to flag me. Okay, enough messing around. Let's get to the first episode and my very first review of Phantom February, Mystery Meat, the pilot episode of Danny Phantom. Let's go. Okay, here we are at Mystery Meat, the first episode of the show, and I wanted to acknowledge the amazing title card art for all these episodes, because it's almost like an old, like, 60s, 70s B movie, like The Blob, or, stuff like that. Classic B movie / horror, and me being a huge horror aficionado, I love that. It is just so cool, and I love the art style. And there's a reason that SpongeBob also adopted this style in some of their trading cards and some of their merchandise. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Let's start with the episode. Okay, now the episode reviews are going to be much shorter than that long thing I just did to explain the main cast, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to acknowledge who wrote the episode, who storyboarded, stuff like that, and then I'll tell you the basic plot synopsis, the positives and the negatives, and give it a score out of 10, okay? Pretty straightforward, a lot like my SpongeBob reviews, but I'm trying to be just a bit more in-depth. Alright, let's get started. So let's start with this episode, Mystery Meat, the pilot episode of Danny Phantom that premiered on April 3rd, I believe it was 3rd, editing will correct me if I'm wrong. April 3rd of 2004. Oh, yes, it is. April 3rd. And it was directed by Butch Hartman, who, of course, created the show. It was written by Butch, as well as Mark Banker and Steve Marmel. The storyboard is also by Butch, but it was also helmed by Eric Weiss, apologies if I butcher your name, and Ray Angrum. Sorry, some of these names are just hard to pronounce, so if I butcher it, I am really sorry. Okay, now to the basic plot synopsis. A month has passed since Danny Fenton's exposure to his parents' ghost portal that turned him into a human-ghost hybrid. As you saw from the theme song in the intro, which I love how they did that. They skipped the origin story of every superhero show and just did it in the intro. I love it when cartoons do that because it leaves more room, to like expand on the episode's plot and and more on like the writing and the comedy aside from all the pilot superhero cliche stuff that we're used to. Like seeing them fight unpowered and then becoming the superhero, and yeah, that gets old after a while. So it was really cool to see them diverge from that for Danny Phantom. When his goth friend Sam, who I already said was voiced by the excellent Gray Griffith, changes the lunch menu to ultra recycle vegetarian. She's just always the outgoing individual, which makes her one of the best characters of the show. The vengeful ghost meat monster of the previous Capster High School lunch lady, voiced again by Patricia Heaton, reanimates to bring meat justice back to the high school. Danny must channel his newfound powers into fighting this ghost while keeping them a secret from everybody except his two friends who already know. Okay, now let's start with some of the positives of the episode. First of all, let's just get this out of the way. The animation is incredible in this episode, and for that fact, the entire series, it sets a really high bar. It's very fluent, but it also has that same style of Fairly Odd Parents, but it's a little more dark, hard-edged, and edgy, which I think is what Butch was going for with this show. I believe. I'd have to do some more research on that, but I think that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to do something a little darker and edgier than Fairly Odd Parents, but still fairly lighthearted. So, a lot like what Sonic Prime is coming out to be, I think. At least according to the news. So, yeah, sorry, I'm rambling. Positives of the episode. Like I said, the animation's really good, and the fights. The fights and the transformation scenes are what make this show so good. Because the transformation scenes, every time it happens, especially the first one, is really, really cool. Like, they do a spin shot, they have these rings go from the center and go down and up through Danny, turning him into Danny Phantom. And I just love the suit. I just love the suit design. I love the green eyes, the white hair, and like how it's all black with just little white or silver accents. It just looks so cool. And I also kind of like how those ghost powers play into the comedy of the episode, which is another huge strength of this show, because this episode is really funny. Like with Danny phasing through the floor, or little touches like him going invisible without knowing it and going through a vending machine. That's one of the funniest parts of the episode. And then just every interaction with either the bully, Baxter, oh, crap, I'm forgetting the names already, excuse me, or the vice principal. The vice principal is just so over the top and so hard edged, and you just can't help but laugh. It's just so enjoyable to watch these characters, and that's one of the things that drew me in about this show because the show it's relatable. It's incredibly relatable because the characters feel like real people and they don't feel like overblown caricatures. Like, I mean, we all love Iron Man, okay? We all know that we love Iron Man, but let's be honest, it wouldn't really have worked if Danny was like Iron Man and had money and had this big head. Danny is a lot like Spider Man. He's very dorky, he's very somewhat not cool, and someone you shouldn't like, but somehow you do because he has this, like, charm and character to him that you just can't help but root for him. And when he does turn the Danny Phantom, he becomes so. I can't say the word I'm thinking of because I would get flagged, so I'm just gonna say OP. I'm gonna say he's incredibly OP when he turns into Danny Phantom. Except the first time because he's still getting a grasp on his powers, and it works into the plot of the episode. And just, everything about this episode just works so well. My only big nitpick with this episode, I'd have to say, is that there are some times when the story can be a bit cluttered and get thrown to the side in uh, exchange for some more comedy. Like, for example, I love the I love all the interactions between Jack and Jazz, and how Jack thinks Jazz is a ghost and keeps finding these elaborate ways to capture her, but there are a few times it becomes just a little much. But it was still funny, and it's really just a minor nitpick. Overall, I adore this episode. It's one of my favorite. It's one of the best pilots I think I've ever seen. It's so good. It's so funny. It's so action packed, and while it is a little bit dark and edgy, it does have a nice balance to it because a lot like again how Sonic Prime is sounding to be come out to be, it does have a darker tone, but it's also aiming for teenagers as well as kids, and it does a good job doing all that. And Butch's writing is incredible here. It's so sharp, it's so on point, and it was just really good. And I couldn't have think of any show better for him to follow Fairly Odd Parents up with this. I love this episode. I think Mystery Meat deserves a final verdict. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna take everyone off right now. This is a 10 out of 10 pilot. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I don't care how many people I tick off of this, but I'm giving this a 10. I love this pilot episode. It's so well structured. It's so well animated. It introduces all the characters well. It's incredibly funny. The action is excellent. The animation is very good, and seriously, like I said, the action, the comedy, and the the fights and the transformation are what make this show so good, as well as its characters and its incredibly talented voice cast. So, yep, that's all I have to say on Mystery Meat. It's a great episode that I enjoy watching, and rewatching it nearly 20 years later was a lot of fun. And I can't wait to watch more of this show because I love this show, and re-seeing it again after all these years is just a joy. I love going back to my 2000s nostalgia. I just love going back to the shows I grew up with, and this is the perfect start. Well, after SpongeBob, of course, because I already did SpongeBob season 1, but yeah, I think this is a great start, and it sets a high bar for the show that I think, aside from its finale, that it was very underwhelming and I have to cover in 2 more years. I think it does really well. I think it's a high bar that it sets and it hits, and sometimes it crosses too, because it just does so well as an overall cartoon. And I'll go over more of this when I get towards the end of this marathon, but yeah, I couldn't have thought of a better show to come back on than Danny Phantom, to be completely honest. I love this show so much, and I'm so glad that it has a dedicated fan base, and you can always add me to those Phantom fans, as I'm gonna call them. I believe that's what they call them, Phantom fans, something like that, whatever. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know this has been very meandering and very long, but I hope you guys understand why it's so long. And I hope you guys just enjoyed the video. And tomorrow we'll be tackling episode 2, but I'm bringing a special guest along. Who? I'm not gonna say. So you'll just have to wait and see. But until then, this is Jack Small signing out, and I'll see you guys next time right here on Animation Station. Oh, one last thing. Um, one last thing I want to address. I'm changing the format a bit for Animation Station. I'm gonna be changing it to all animation, including adults. So every now and then you'll get a 18 plus restricted video from me, and that's because, animation is so diverse and so interesting that I kind of need to cover all of it, and AS Plus isn't really catching fire right now, so this is really the only way I can really do it. So, yeah. I'll sneak one or two of those reviews in during this marathon, so just a little heads up. Alright, and also thank you guys so much for nearly 300 subscribers. Like, wow, I was not expecting my channel to catch that much fire in only a few months. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you guys for continuing to support the channel, and I only hope one day that we can start getting sponsorship and some higher quality, so I don't have to do this on my phone all the time. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next episode of Phantom February. Until then, I'm going Ghost for now. See you guys later. Have a great day.